Welcome back to the studio. Today we're going to be working on another block from the Zen Garden kit. This particular one is block number 8. I almost kind of wish they had names for the blocks, but really they don't. This is a 12-inch block, and it's just another one of the beautiful flowers in the Zen Garden. This is one of the ones that we have previously finished, and it's going to be really beautiful. As you could tell, all of these pieces in this particular kit are batik, and in this kit all of the fabric pieces are laser cut and they're pre-fused with Steam 2. And that's why we say that this process is just peel, place, and press. And by that we mean that it has a paper backing on the back of each piece that's already pre-cut. You just peel that paper off, position it where it's needed, and then when you're ready you press it in place. All of these pieces are repositionable up until the point that you press it in place. Because we do use steam in the process, it does require steam as part of the process. So you always have to remember that when you're using Steam 2. It requires moisture or steam at some step in the process or it won't fuse properly. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you in, and then I'll open up my kit and pull out my pieces, my color cover sheet, and my full-size pattern, and we can knock out block number 7 in the Zen Garden kit. In my opening process, what I always like to do is open up my kit, and I will take out my color cover sheet. These come in really handy when you have several pieces that are the same shape and size, so that you get those placed in the correct position. And then the other two things we're going to have in here are our full-size pattern placement guide. And while I have my dry iron here, I'm going to go ahead and press out these creases, because I don't want those creases to translate into me positioning any of my pieces just a little bit in the wrong place. So I'm just going to quickly press out those creases. Then I can go ahead and put my block over top of it. I think I might press my block as well. It's been a minute since I had pressed these when I cut them. And I will get my light box out too. The other component that always comes in here is a full step-by-step guide explaining how this process works. Although it is very simple, we do have it very well explained here in the instructions. That comes with every one of our Applique kits, blocks, components. So we have this here, and the last thing we have are all of the applique pieces just as you see them inside the block here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wait until I get my light box out, because some of these are darker and they will hide on my dark board. So I'm going to get my light box out next and get that set up, and then we can proceed. As you can see, I have my color cover guide here, and I've laid out all of my pieces basically in the way that they're going to go on the pattern itself. Here we have this piece here that has a dotted line. That indicates that it goes back underneath these two pieces. So I'm going to start there. And this process is very easy. You can see that the paper just peels off the back. And after you peel it off, you can see there's a shiny, sticky residue there, and that is the Steam 2. And you can reposition that as needed. I'm just kind of putting it as where it needs to go. And I'll continue peeling these paper backing off. It's actually a very easy process, especially for me here in my particular climate. Not happy with where this blue one is. Okay, I like that better. I usually have a pin stuck right into my board, but I'm going to grab one. Once you stick these down, these will stay in place as long as you need them to. If you wanted to pick this up and walk across the room, these pieces will stay in place. They won't fall off. If you have a particular piece that's hard to come off, what you could do is take a pen or a seam ripper and just score the paper in the back and then bend it where you've scored it, and that will give you a place to pick up the edge, and it will help you get a grip on that piece. I don't usually have to go that extra step because for me they usually just come off fairly easily. I do think the climate has something to do with it. I don't know if it's just me, but it seems really quiet today. Because these pieces are so simple to do, it really is a fun thing that you could do with your family members or with friends. If you're having a night with your friends over and a couple glasses of wine, you could do this instead of painting. I think some friends could get together and also do this as a gift for somebody who wasn't feeling well, because this could go together so quickly. One person could assemble the blocks at the end, and then someone could put it on their long arm and quilt it. This particular one's really bright and cheerful, so I think it really would cheer somebody up to get this. And I don't think my room would be the same without these beautiful quilts in here. I know some of you will have seen the video where I changed out the quilts in the room, but I showed the room with no quilts in it at all, and it's a very stark room indeed without these quilts in it. And we just have one or two pieces left. And then I can go ahead and get out my ironing board. I'll bring my silicone pressing sheet into play here and remove the light box. And we can put this one aside until we get ready to assemble the blocks. And with this one, again, I'm wondering if I don't want to do some kind of sashing. I think the sashing kind of livens it up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer the light box out and get out my Teflon pressing sheet, and we'll be good to go on the pressing. As I've said, I went ahead and replaced the light box with my Teflon pressing sheet. I have water. Oh, this is the wrong one. That's my starch bottle. I have water in my spray bottle. I just filled it up. So I'm going to lightly mist the top of my Zen Garden block. And I do this because I don't keep water in my iron. And the reason I do that is because I always trip over the cord of my iron and break a seal, and the iron starts leaking or the iron goes through a self-cleaning cycle and it sputters on my block. If I don't put any water in my iron, it can never leak. So a cheap iron becomes a good iron. The Teflon pressing sheet I always utilize because it insulates the fabric. It's kind of an insulated barrier to make sure I don't scorch the fabric. It protects the fabric just in case there was any glue or residue on the iron. It doesn't transfer to my applique or the backing. It protects my iron surface in case any of the Steam 2 seeps out around the edge of the applique. It doesn't get stuck on my sole plate. It also really protects these edges of the applique, because in the past I've gotten lazy and I've pushed the iron side to side, and what I've done is catch the edge of an applique and crinkled it up, but then it was underneath the sole plate where I couldn't see it, and it was fusing that applique shape all crinkled up, and then by the time I got it off it was too late. The damage was done. So I really like the pressing sheet because it holds the pieces compressed down while I'm pressing, and that way they don't get damaged. Now you do have to give it a little bit of time for the heat to transfer down through the Teflon pressing sheet and down through each of the different layers of the fabric and Steam 2 and fabric and Steam 2. Remember, some pieces only have one layer, some pieces might have 2 or 3. After we get this process done, what I always like to do is flip my block over and remist it and do the process again from the back, because we don't want to have to go back later at some point and try and refuse this block again. If we fuse it properly now, it's permanent from all days forward. If it's done properly now, this never has to be top stitched for it to be permanent. We do not ever top stitch any of our applique samples. None of our samples in the studio have ever been top stitched with a buttonhole stitch or applique stitch or any other kind of stitch. We just don't do it. It doesn't require it, and so we don't do it. We do quilt over them when it is a quilt, but we don't top stitch over the edge of the applique. Steam 2 does not require top stitching on their applique. Now I know everybody does top stitching on the raw edge applique, but that's a matter of preference. It's not a matter of requirement. We also have a lot of things in the studio like wood, glass, canvas, burlap that we have also used to fuse our applique on using the Steam 2. And when you can't use an iron on something, you could also use a blow dryer and like a tea towel to help keep it pressed in place. So there's lots of options when using Steam 2. And there we have my finished block. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up my table a little bit, and then we can wrap up today's video. I know you're all busy, so I won't keep you a long time today. So thanks for joining me and getting this block done. This was number 7, so that means we're more than halfway done. This one almost matches my shirt a little bit. We're almost halfway done with this one, and next month we'll be doing block number 8. Until then, take care of yourself and take care of each other, and thanks for stopping by the Urban Elementz studio today. Mm-hmm.